The subject of heaven and hell is usually an animated one for people. People either feel very strongly that there are such things in a fairly traditional view of what that would mean, with heaven being gold-paved roads and constant angelic song and all the ice cream you could ever want, and hell being where you roast and burn and it smells of burning flesh or whatever other tortures people can imagine. Or then they're on the other end of the spectrum often, people, and they go, there is no such thing, I don't believe in any of that. And then there's a whole kind of a newer perspective of that everybody goes to heaven. It's for everyone. It's just where everyone goes when they die. So I want to address that with a little more consciousness brought to it. What happens to our beings, our souls, our spirits when we die is that they leave our bodies and clearly have to go into some state of consciousness of being. In fact, once one is not material anymore, it is about state of consciousness and state of being. And there's bound to be something more or less, right? The way to understand this the best is to understand that heaven is where God is, and God's love and light and peace and consciousness is, and heaven is where God is not. Now, what would make us go toward one or another? A lot of people like to think that it's how good they are. If they are generous and compassionate and all, that is what would make them go to the nice place, and if they're not, they'd go to the crispy place. In fact, it has everything to do with our relationship with God, not so much with other things. If while you were in a body, in a physical body on earth, you cared about creating and developing a relationship with God, and you did so not just in a heady kind of a way where you theologize about God or philosophize about God or memorize every scripture there ever was about God and then spout it off, which, by the way, doesn't mean you're in a relationship with God. But instead, if you actually bother to create and dwell in and develop a relationship with God, and you learned to actually feel God, experience God, even hear God and come into the presence of God, then you will have prepared yourself to be in such a state when you leave your physical body. You will have practice at being in the brightness of that presence. You'll have practice at being in the intensity of that love. You may say, oh, what's hard about that? Oh, it is hard. More people run from the intensity of pure love than most any other thing. They run like they're terrified, even if they didn't think so before. The problem with being in the presence of such great love is that it brings up all of our concepts about ourselves, and do we deserve that kind of love, or how mad are we that we didn't get it when we were children, or how mad are we at people who betrayed us in love? So all our stuff comes up, and that immediately takes us out of the presence of that love. We actually have to learn how to be still and present and willing to accept the intensity of how much we're loved, and that takes practice. So if we have never bothered to learn that when we've been in our bodies, when we come to the other side, we won't know how to do that, and we won't be able to do it. So when we leave our bodies, we end up in the same relationship with God as we had when we were on earth, only we don't have bodies to distract us anymore, and the material world isn't there to distract us. But we're in the same relationship with God, same distance between us, same familiarity, same love connection, or same us not caring about God, or not wanting anything to do with God, or not even believing God exists. All that stays the same. When we're out of our bodies, If we have in fact not made the possibility of being in relationship with God a reality in our lives, then we find ourselves separate from that. We will feel and see the love, the light, the presence over there, away from us. And we will feel the absence of being in a love relationship with it. And that will be sad, because we'll then get how good it is, how blissful that is, how ecstatic it would be to be in oneness with that. But we won't be able to do it. So that is what we call hell, where the absence of God is. And it will burn in us to be in that condition of being absent from the love and from the light, absent from the peace. That is somewhat torturesome. So that's what establishes what hell is. It's being away from that which is love and light and peace and joy. What do? Is it eternal damnation? Well, fortunately, we'll reincarnate and be able to come back and this time decide to make being in relationship with God a priority. And hopefully we'll start fairly early in life to develop that relationship. We'll seek out a teacher, we'll seek out the means to come into that knowing, that oneness. And then when we leave that life, we'll be ready to enter into the joy and the bliss of being in the presence of God. How do Jesus or Mary fit into this picture? They make it so much easier for us to be able to come into that love. For one, they bring us forgiveness for everything we've done wrong. So we'll be able to accept that we are worthy enough to come to God. Two, they show us how. They teach us by example, by their assistance, by their helping us. They can help us come into knowing that reality. We are so grateful for that. To come into a deep love relationship with God is the purpose of our life, and it's the joy of our life. I welcome you into starting to find your way into such relationship of love with your Creator.